Hello class, today we're going to talk about evaluating expressions. Okay, so the standard that we're looking at right now is we're going to apply and extend previous understandings of operations to solve problems using add, subtract, multiply, and divide. That's basically what we're doing when we're evaluating expressions. So there is one prerequisite that we need to understand about evaluating expressions, and that is order of operations. So what is the order of operations? Well, what we've done in the past is, you know, that we do parentheses, then we do exponents, then multiply, divide, then add, subtract. And the way we remember that is by using the acronym, Please Excuse My Dear Aunt Sally, or the mnemonic device. It's not really an acronym, but a mnemonic device there. And that helps us remember the order in which we do things. So if I were to give you a question like this and ask you to solve it without the use of the calculator, we would start off by looking at our parentheses, and we would solve that part first. So I would just write down 4 squared plus 14 divided by, and then I would do the answer to the parenthesis. 5 minus 3 is 2. Okay, so I did the first part. So now we go to the next part. So first is parentheses, next is exponents. So that means I'm going to do the 4 to the second power. But we need to remember that 4 to the second power means 4 times 4, not 4 plus 4, or 4 times 2. So this would give us 16 plus then the 14 divided by 2 times negative 3. So next, after doing the parentheses and dealing with the exponents, now we're going to deal with multiply, divide. What we got to remember, though, is the multiply, divide is we do them in the order that they appear in the problem. So that means I'm going to write 16 plus, because I'm not ready to deal with that yet. And then I do the 14 divided by 2, which we know is 7, and I immediately multiply it by the negative 3, which would give me a negative 21. And now we do one addition problem here. Now we know that with integers, if I have a positive plus a negative, okay, we're going to subtract our numbers, and we take the sign of the number with the greatest absolute value. So in this particular case, we'd end up with a negative 5. So in essence, what we did here was we evaluated and or simplified this particular expression. Because the simplify, we started off with something pretty big and extensive, and we narrowed it down to a single answer. That's what simplifying is all about. So when I ask you to evaluate expressions, what I'm looking for in evaluate is to either get an answer for it or simplify it. Because in order to evaluate expressions, what we're going to do is we're going to evaluate a variable expression, you first replace each variable with a number, with whatever value that is given in the problem. And then you use the order of operations in order to simplify that expression. So this first one says we've got 4y minus 15. So the first thing I want you to do is I want you to translate that statement. I want you to say it with operations in mind. So this one right here says 4 times whatever the value of y is minus 15. Because if you can say it, you can evaluate it. Okay, so now we're going to take this 4y minus 15 and I'm going to plug this 9 in for the y. So this becomes 4 times 9 and then minus 15. So now we do our math according to order of operations. So we do the multiply first, and we end up with 4 times 9 is 36. And then I'm going to subtract 15 from that. So 36 take away 15 will give us 21 as an answer. Okay, so this 21 is the evaluation of 4 times y minus 15 for y is equal to 9. So let's try another one. Here's a couple more. Okay, this first one says 63 minus 5 times x. So we're going to take the 63 and we're going to subtract 5 times, and our x in this particular case is 7. So I'll substitute in the 7 for the x. And now for this particular problem, I have to do the 5 times 7 first. So I end up with 63 minus, and then 5 times 7 is 35. And now we subtract. Okay, so sometimes you may have to come to the side and do your subtraction. So borrow from the 6, it becomes a 5. And then we got 13 take away 5, which we know is 8. Okay, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Yeah, just make sure. And then we end up with 5 take away 3 is 2. So we end up with 28 as our answer. Now granted, you do get to use a calculator, so some of this kind of math you may not have to do. So what I'd like for you to do is pause the video and answer this second one by yourself. Okay, let's see how you did. Okay, so this one here, it's kind of a little bit tougher, but it says that we're going to do t plus 3, and I'm going to get an answer for that. Then I'm going to multiply it by 4, and then I'm going to add 1. That's how you have to interpret that one. So now let's plug in what we know. We know t is going to be 8 So we got 4 parentheses, 8 plus 3, and then plus 1. So what I like to do is actually kind of simplify it in pieces. So I'm going to do this 8 plus 3, and 8 plus 3 is 11. So I like writing that step out, and now I'm ready to finish it out. 4 times 11 gives us 44. Then I add 1 to that to get 45. And some of these are actually faster to do with just using your own calculations in your head and doing the math versus using a calculator. So let's try one more and then we'll be ready for our assignment. Okay, so what if I were to give you this one? Oh, this one's kind of tough. Well, one thing I want you to notice is we've got multiple letters. Okay, so in this particular one right here, we've got R plus S, and this big bar right here says that I need to take the answer to that top part and divide it by 2. Okay, so we're going to plug in our R, which is 13, plus plug in our S, which is 11, and I'm going to take the answer to that and divide it by 2. So if you're using your calculator, you can't just type this one in as 13 plus 11 divided by 2, because it will take the 11 and divide it by 2 first, and then add 13 to that. You have to remember that this big bar here, it implies that this top part is in parentheses, and we must get an answer for it first before I can do the divide by 2. Okay, so now 13 plus 11 gives us 24. I want to divide that by 2, and 24 divided by 2 is 12. And that's how you evaluate expressions. All you're doing is plugging in your values and doing the math. We commonly call this, in my class, plug and chug. So until next time.